from the top, I'm just going to etch them away. And that's the reason why they're called top-down approaches. So essentially the template etching, if you look at, you just use a mask and then form nanostructures. Look at what is there on the left, and this is what the mask is, and then you have the surface, and then etch it using a chemical etching. You can also use an optical means of etching it away, but then in this particular case, it's a chemical etching. If I have to give you an example, you have two examples that I give. Here at the top, what you're seeing is SiSi, which is normally used in quite well compatible with the processes that we can talk about in terms of electronics. So it's possible to have a polymer on a surface. And this polymer is chosen in such a way that it interacts with the surface and it forms a nicely ordered structure. Why does it form an ordered structure? For a different reason, one can explain all this. Based on the interaction of the polyvinyl pyridine and polystyrene is the combination that I'm talking about. This pyridine actually interacts with the surface, the nitrogen of that particular molecule, the polymer. And when I have a HF as an etchant, it goes and interacts with the nitrogen part of it and then gets rid of only that particular part of silicon. So essentially, I have this particular system which forms a nicely organized structure, and from the organized structure, it's possible to get rid of only preferential planes. The whole thing is done under ambient conditions in the laboratory. So what you're seeing here is a 100 nanometer scale here. So these are all nice silicon structures that you have, based on etching of this particular polymer. So selective etching. So what you have below is one another example of a silicon which is formed in the like a pyramid. And why does it form a pyramid? That's for a different reason. It's actually the corrosion that's controlled here based on the chemical that's used as an etchant. Tetramethyl ammonium hydroxide, when it's actually taken onto the surface, which is covered with a particular thing, mask. In this particular case, it's porous anodic aluminum. So it actually gets rid of this in a way that you form a triangle. So we do have a very nice pyramid-like structure based on selective etching. Alloying, I just told you about, the selective de-alloying. So this is exactly like gold and silver. You see that this is an electron tomography picture where you have a nice three-dimensional picture that is given here. So you do see the silver coming off from the pores. And why is this important? Because this kind of microporous or even mesoporous in certain cases, depending on the concentration of the etchant that one uses, it's required if one talks about them as a catalyst, for example, methanol oxidation or carbon monoxide oxidation, which is very essential in the process. So you need to have surface area that should be increased, you need to have accessible surface area that needs to be controlled, and this is how it's formed. You look at the anisotropic dissolution. I just mentioned again one particular example. In this particular case, it's calcite, calcium carbonate, or aragonite. So one of these two, there's a polymer. So one of them actually gets etched away by this particular chemical and leaving it alone. So it's possible to anisotropically etch the material as well. And this is the naturally available pore in some sense. And this particular process is being used in several applications. So for photodialysis, for example, selective etching of copper oxide using sodium citrate. And that gives, I'm just giving some details on this. Let's not worry about the details as of now. So essentially, it's possible to have certain specific crystallographic phases that can be formed on the surface. So if I just make a material, either by a solid state or by a chemical reaction, I essentially end up with what we call as a polycrystalline material, wherein you have all kinds of crystallographic planes that are exposed. But then, if you look at all these planes, there are certain planes that are active for certain reactions. There's a lot of work that's been happening on fuel cells and what we call as metal air batteries, for example. In metal air batteries, we need to have oxygen in the air has to be used as one of the reactants. So the oxygen has to be reduced and it has to be brought back when you recharge the battery. And this happens on a particular facet of platinum. And the kinetics of this particular reaction is pretty high on that particular facet. How do I go about finding this out? How do I go about making this facet? And that's what this one is all about. So you selectively etch away, dissolve out the crystallographic planes that are not required. Not very easy. I mean, it's easy to kind of say it right now once everything is done. But then you just have to look at the surface energies and then try to match it with the etchant and slowly get rid of it. And the kinetics is a very important aspect as well. And the last one that you have is again related to gold. It's a nanoporous gold. And this particular case, the gold is actually acting as an actuator. Not very easy to have actuation using gold. So this particular nanoporous gold, because of the absorption of certain gases, there is a change in the mechanical property, and you see actuation in place. And this happens only because of the porosity and the structure that you have formed. Thermal decomposition is the last one that I just mentioned. I will not go into the details of that. Just go on to this particular aspect of self-assembled monolayers, and I'm just going to stick to this particular topic for the next half an hour or so, and then explain to you as to how the self-assembly can be used to form nanostructures on the surface, and what kind of applications that one can think of. I'll explain to you one application wherein I would say that this particular process can be used to have an electronic component, say a molecular rectifier, with an organic molecule. And I would also tell you as to how this can be used to study certain fundamental reactions or certain fundamental processes. But before that, let's just see what the self-assembly is all about. This is what I have just given here is all organized structures on surfaces. It's very easy to find out. I mean, like if you're a chemistry